Imagine walking home late at night. The hum of the city fades to a low whisper, and the streetlights above cast long, dancing shadows that seem to follow your every step. It is in moments like these, in the quiet spaces between the familiar and the unknown, that a different kind of story comes alive. These are the urban legends, chilling tales that circulate endlessly, passed from one person to the next like a secret, changing ever so slightly with each telling. They are a unique form of modern folklore, thriving in the concrete jungles of our cities and the quiet corners of our towns. But what is it that gives these stories such a potent and enduring hold over our imaginations, and more importantly, over our deepest fears? At their very core, urban legends are sensational narratives presented as true events, often happening not to the teller, but to a friend of a friend. This simple framing device creates an immediate, unsettling sense of plausibility. Unlike ancient myths born of gods and monsters, urban legends are rooted in the mundane. They unfold on lonely highways, in crowded shopping malls, or within the deceptive safety of suburban homes. This very familiarity is their greatest weapon. It strips away the comfort of distance, making the horror feel not just possible, but probable. It suggests that the nightmare isn't in some faraway land, but could be waiting just outside your own front door. Consider one of the most iconic examples, the legend of the Hookman. The story is almost a cultural touchstone. A young couple, parked on a secluded lover's lane, hears a news report on the car radio. An escaped killer is on the loose, a madman distinguished by a sharp steel hook where his hand should be. Frightened, they speed away. It is only when they arrive home, safe under the bright lights of their driveway, that they discover the horrifying proof of their near miss, a bloody hook hanging from the passenger door handle.
This tale has been retold for generations, its details shifting with the times, but its chilling climax remains the same. The Hookman legend preys upon our collective anxieties about vulnerability, trust, and the consequences of youthful rebellion, all wrapped in a narrative so gripping it feels like a memory you never had. But these stories do more than just entertain. They actively shape our behavior and blur the lines between fiction and reality. The infamous tale of razor blades and poison hidden in Halloween candy, for instance, ignited a nationwide panic in the United States during the 1970s and 80s. Despite a near-total lack of evidence to support these claims, the story spread like wildfire. The legend's power was not in its truth, but in its ability to weaponize a shared fear, the fear that a stranger could harm our children. As a result, communities fundamentally changed their traditions. Parents began meticulously inspecting every piece of candy, hospitals offered free X-ray services, and the simple joy of trick-or-treating was forever tinged with a shadow of suspicion. The adaptability of urban legends is another key to their survival. In the past, they traveled by word of mouth, their pace limited by human interaction. Today, thanks to the internet and social media, they spread at the speed of light. A story can be born in the morning on an obscure forum and become a global phenomenon by nightfall. The legend of the Slender Man is a chilling modern testament to this. Originating as a series of photoshopped images created for an online contest, this tall, faceless figure in a black suit quickly evolved into a complex modern myth. He became the subject of fan fiction, video series, and games, his mythology collectively built by a global community. This digital folklore reflects distinctly modern anxieties, distrust of technology, the fear of what lurks unseen in the background of our own lives, and the viral nature of ideas themselves.
Ultimately, urban legends serve as a mirror, reflecting our society's deepest hopes, fears, and unanswered questions. They persist because they are whispered in the shadows, passed from one person to the next, always just plausible enough to send a shiver down your spine.
Whether they serve as a warning, a form of entertainment, or a simple, unsettling reminder of the darkness, urban legends are a powerful testament to the art of storytelling and its profound ability to shape our world. To understand the chilling allure of a truly great urban legend, we must trace its origins back through time, long before the glow of computer screens, to an era when stories were passed in whispers around flickering firelight. The genesis of these tales is often as murky as the shadowy corners where they were first shared. Some are born from a kernel of truth, a real historic tragedy that has been warped and magnified over generations. Others are pure invention, spun by parents to keep their children from wandering too far from home, or by communities to explain the unexplainable. Let's delve into these historical roots. The earliest whispers of many legends can be found in the late 19th century, particularly in small, isolated communities where superstition was an integral part of daily life. In a time before modern science could explain every anomaly, events like sudden disappearances, strange illnesses, or livestock found dead under mysterious circumstances demanded an explanation. When logic failed, people turned to the supernatural. A legend would grow to fill the void, giving a terrifying face and a name to the formless anxiety of the unknown. It was a way to impose order on a chaotic world, even if that order was monstrous. One of the most common origin points is a local tragedy, often involving a child. In some versions, a young girl wanders into the woods at dusk and is never seen again. In others, a group of children is lured away by an eerie sound or a mysterious light. These early tales were raw and direct, always ending with the same stark warning: stay close to home after dark, and never, ever answer a call from the shadows. Over time, as the story was passed from one village to the next, it evolved. It absorbed elements from other local tales, each community adding its own unique fears and landmarks, until the original tragedy was buried under layers of folklore. Another powerful influence was the blending of cultures. As people migrated, they brought their stories with them. The Slavic tales of Baba Yaga, the British boogeyman, or the German Nachtkrop all contributed to a shared pool of mythological DNA. The legends we know today are often a patchwork, stitched together from these diverse traditions. Local anxieties shaped the creature's features. Sometimes it was a heartbroken woman in white, forever weeping by a river. Other times, it was a hulking, faceless figure, or a spectral child with hollow eyes. Each variation became a unique reflection of the community that told it, a monster tailor-made to exploit their specific fears. This spread was fueled entirely by oral tradition. Before literacy was widespread, a good story was a valuable currency. It was entertainment, education, and social control all in one. The legend served a vital function. It was a tool for teaching caution, for reinforcing social boundaries, and for giving voice to the darkness that people sensed but could not see. Children would listen with wide eyes, while adults would nod knowingly, cementing the story's place as accepted truth. With the arrival of print media in the early 20th century, the legend took on a new and more powerful life. Short stories in pulp magazines, sensationalized newspaper clippings, and cheap penny dreadfuls seized upon the tale, adapting it for a mass audience.
Each retelling amplified the horror, adding new, terrifying details: glowing red eyes, a chilling laugh carried on the wind, or the sound of something scratching at your window pane. What began as a whispered local warning had transformed into a nationwide nightmare, ensuring its survival for generations to come, forever embedded in the cultural consciousness. When a legend truly takes root, it doesn't just linger in the shadows of the mind. It bleeds into the real world, weaving itself into the fabric of a culture's beliefs, behaviors, and even its physical geography. This transformative power is the ultimate proof of a story's impact, showing how a single tale can ripple outward, shaping a community in ways both subtle and profound. It often begins with language. Phrases and warnings derived from a legend can become common expressions, used even by those who don't know the full story. A parent might caution a child, "Don't wander near the river,"
or La Llorona will get you. Or a teenager might joke about checking the back seat of their car before driving off. These warnings, repeated from one generation to the next, serve as a kind of cultural shorthand, a way to invoke a shared fear and reinforce a behavioral lesson. In this way, the spirit or monster at the heart of the legend becomes a tool for social order, an invisible enforcer of communal rules. Beyond language, the legend seeps into local customs and rituals. In many parts of Latin America, the story of La Llorona, the weeping woman who drowned her children and now searches for them for eternity, has inspired festivals, theatrical plays, and solemn processions. During these events, actors reenact her tragic search, while townspeople gather to share their own encounters and sing ballads that keep her memory alive. Similar traditions exist across the globe, from Japan's ghost festivals honoring the eerie to the Slavic rituals meant to appease the water spirits known as rusalki.
These customs show how universal the fear of vengeful spirits is, and how deeply ingrained the need to pacify them becomes. The legend also leaves an indelible mark on the physical landscape. Bridges, lonely stretches of road, or abandoned buildings become imbued with a new, sinister meaning. They transform from simple locations into landmarks of fear, places to be avoided after sundown. A particular riverbank becomes the setting for whispered tales of ghostly sightings. In some towns, these spots even become macabre tourist attractions, drawing in thrill seekers eager for a brush with the supernatural. This in turn fuels the local economy and gives new life to the old stories, creating a self-sustaining cycle where the legend and the place become inseparable. And, of course, popular media has amplified the legend's reach exponentially. Books, movies, songs, and television shows constantly reinterpret and reimagine these tales, adapting them for new audiences and new eras. The 2019 horror film The Curse of La Llorona introduced the story to millions worldwide. But long before Hollywood's involvement, countless poems, radio dramas, and folk songs carried her tale far and wide. Each retelling adds new layers to the myth, sometimes making the spirit more sympathetic, other times more terrifying, but always ensuring that it remains a part of the cultural conversation. At its core, a legend's cultural power lies in its ability to tap into universal human fears, the fear of loss, of guilt, of the unknown, and of the irreversible mistakes of the past. That is why it persists, shifting its shape but never truly fading away. Through language, ritual, geography, and media, the legend becomes more than just a scary story. It becomes a living, breathing part of a culture, a shadowy force that guides actions, shapes identities, and haunts the collective imagination, generation after generation. Some stories are like shadows.
Long after the light has faded, they remain, etched into our memory, refusing to dissipate into the darkness. But what is it about certain legends, certain mysteries, that keeps us so utterly transfixed? Why do we find ourselves compelled to revisit the same haunting tales, unable to simply look away? The answer lies in a complex interplay of human psychology, our cultural conditioning, and the very wiring of our brains. First, there is the undeniable power of curiosity. Human beings are, by their very nature, information seekers. Psychologists refer to this as our need for cognitive closure, a deep, often unconscious desire to resolve uncertainty and find a definitive answer. When a story is left open-ended, shrouded in ambiguity, our minds itch for a resolution that never comes. This is why unsolved mysteries are so compelling. The open-endedness acts like a mental splinter. The more we try to ignore it, the more it demands our attention, forcing us to speculate, theorize, and endlessly revisit the details in search of a truth that may never be found. But it is more than just a puzzle to be solved. These lingering shadows tap directly into our most primal fears and anxieties. The explosion and popularity of true crime documentaries and podcasts is not born from a morbid enjoyment of suffering. Instead, these stories offer a controlled environment in which to confront the unthinkable.
By exploring the darkest corners of human behavior from the safety of our own homes, we gain a vicarious sense of understanding and preparedness. We seek to comprehend the why behind monstrous acts, subconsciously gathering information in an attempt to make sense of a world that often feels random and dangerous. It is a way of staring into the abyss, while knowing we can turn it off at any moment. There is also a powerful element of empathy at play. When we hear stories of tragedy or injustice, we connect with the victims and their families.
Their pain becomes, in a small way, our own. The lingering shadow of their story becomes a call for justice, a reminder that the narrative is not truly over until there is closure or healing. This shared emotional investment turns a private tragedy into a public obsession, keeping it alive in the collective consciousness long after it has faded from the headlines. Our modern cultural landscape is designed to amplify these shadows. The 24-hour news cycle, the endless discussion forums of social media, and the dedicated online communities that form around specific mysteries all create a kind of digital campfire, a place where the story is never allowed to fully recede. These communal spaces transform unsolved cases and persistent legends into shared projects, where thousands of people collaborate in the pursuit of answers, making it even harder for any single individual to look away. Ultimately, these shadows linger because they force us to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves and our society. They demand that we wrestle with profound questions of morality, justice, and the very limits of human knowledge. In this sense, the shadow is also a mirror, reflecting our own vulnerabilities, our own unresolved fears, and the mysteries we carry within ourselves. And so we keep watching, keep listening, and keep wondering, drawn to the darkness not because we wish to be consumed by it, but because we are relentlessly, hopelessly, and humanly driven to understand it.